The desperate call. The world was dying, and everyone knew it. The skies were no longer blue, but choked with thick, gray smoke. The oceans had turned dark, and fish were a rare sight. Crops failed year after year, and millions went to bed hungry. Earth was no longer the planet it used to be. Inside a high-tech research facility, hidden deep beneath the ground, a group of scientists worked against time. They called their project the Beacon, the last hope for humanity. The leader of the team, Dr. Elena Hayes, stood in front of a glowing console. She adjusted her glasses, her fingers trembling as she typed the final commands. "This is our only chance," Elena said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. Her team stood around her, watching silently. Some looked hopeful, others scared. They had spent years designing this machine, a beacon capable of sending a signal across the galaxy. The question was, would anyone answer? The room buzzed with energy as the beacon powered up. Lights blinked on the massive machine, and a low hum filled the air. It was a marvel of science, but also a gamble. Elena turned to her team. "Once we send this signal, there's no going back. We don't know who or what might respond." A young scientist named Mark raised his hand nervously. "What if they're hostile? What if they come to finish us off?" Elena nodded. "That's a risk we have to take. But if we do nothing, Earth will die anyway. We have to believe there's someone out there who can help us." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the stakes. Humanity had no allies left, not even among themselves. Countries had stopped working together years ago, and wars over resources had left the planet in ruins. Now this small team of scientists carried the burden of saving the entire species. "Activate the beacon," Elena said firmly. A scientist pressed a button, and the beacon roared to life. A beam of blue energy shot into the sky, piercing through layers of Earth's polluted atmosphere. It carried a message. "Help us. Earth is dying. We need you." For a moment, there was only the sound of the beacon humming. The team watched the monitors, which showed the signal traveling farther and farther into space. Seconds turned into minutes, and still nothing happened. "Maybe it's too late," Mark whispered. "Maybe no one's out there." But just as despair began to set in, the monitors flickered. Strange symbols appeared on the screen, glowing in patterns they couldn't understand. The beacon's hum changed, becoming louder and sharper. Elena's eyes widened. "We're getting a response," she said. The room erupted in excitement and fear. The scientists scrambled to decode the symbols, but before they could make sense of it, the ground shook violently. Alarms blared, and lights flickered. "What's happening?" shouted a woman in the back. Mark pointed at the screen. "Something's coming." Above ground, the night sky split open. A massive ship appeared, unlike anything Earth had ever seen. It was sleek and metallic, its surface glowing with an otherworldly light. The ship hovered silently, its shadow stretching across the ruined landscape below. Inside the facility, the scientists watched in awe and terror as the ship descended. A loud rumble shook the air, and a blinding beam of light shot down from the ship, piercing through the ground. The scientists shielded their eyes as the light filled the room. When the light faded, a figure stood in its place. She was enormous, at least 8 feet tall, with a commanding presence that made the air feel heavier. Her skin was a soft silver, and her eyes glowed faintly blue. She wore armor that shimmered like liquid metal, and a long weapon hung at her side. The room was silent as everyone stared at her. The giantess scanned the room, her expression calm but unreadable. Finally, she spoke, her voice deep and resonant. "You called," she said, her words clear and deliberate. "I have come." Elena stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "Are you here to help us?" The alien tilted her head, as if considering the question. "That depends," she said, "on whether you deserve it." Before anyone could respond, the lights flickered again. The alien turned sharply, her glowing eyes narrowing. "You're not alone," she said, her tone suddenly serious. "Others heard your call too. but they are not coming to help." The room erupted in chaos. The scientists shouted questions, but the alien raised her hand, silencing them. She stepped forward, her presence filling the room with an unspoken authority. "You asked for help," she said. "Now you must prepare to fight for it." And with that, the desperate call became a battle cry. "Who is she?" The air in the underground facility felt heavier, as if the presence of the alien woman had bent the rules of nature itself. Mira, as she called herself, stood motionless in the center of the room. Her glowing blue eyes seemed to pierce through every person there, reading their thoughts, their fears. No one dared move or speak. Mira's silver skin shimmered faintly under the fluorescent lights. Her towering figure seemed both majestic and terrifying. She carried herself with a calm confidence, but something about her made everyone uneasy, as if her power was barely contained. Alina finally broke the silence. "You said others are coming. Who are they? Why would they follow our signal?" Mira turned to Alina, her movements smooth but deliberate, as if she was calculating every step. Her voice was steady, her tone sharp. "Your distress signal was loud. It traveled far. Too far. Not everyone who heard it has noble intentions." Mark, standing near the back, couldn't contain himself. "Then why did you come?" he blurted out. "What's in it for you?" Mira's gaze shifted to him, and Mark felt as if the air had been sucked out of the room. Her eyes locked on his, unblinking. "Because your world reminds me of mine," she said, her words carrying a weight that silenced the entire room. The team exchanged nervous glances. Mira's answer wasn't what they had expected. Alina pressed further. "What happened to your world?" Mira hesitated, her glowing eyes dimming slightly. For the first time, a flicker of emotion crossed her face. "We sent a call too, long ago. But help didn't come in time." Her voice grew colder. "The ones who answered came to conquer, not to save. My people were strong, but we fell. I am all that remains." The room grew even quieter, the weight of her words pressing on everyone like a heavy fog. Alina studied her, trying to read the unreadable. This alien, this giantess, was more than just a warrior. She was a survivor. But why would someone with such a past risk coming to help another world? Before Alina could ask more, Mira took a step closer, her towering form casting long shadows across the room. "I have seen what happens to worlds like yours," she said. "You are weak, divided, vulnerable. The ones who come for you will not show mercy." A scientist named Claire, her voice trembling, spoke up. "Can you help us? Can you stop them?" Mira's expression hardened. "Help does not come freely. I will stand with you, but you must prove yourselves worthy of survival." Mark frowned, his fear replaced by frustration. "Worthy? We didn't call you to test us. We called for help because we're dying." Mira's gaze snapped to him, and her voice dropped to a dangerous tone. "Your survival is not my responsibility. If you wish to live, you must be ready to fight. Your enemies are ruthless. They will not spare the weak." Her words struck a nerve. Alina stepped between Mira and Mark, her voice steady but firm. "We may be weak, but we're not cowards. If you have knowledge that can help us, we'll listen. But we're not your enemy." For a moment, the room was silent. Mira studied Alina, her expression unreadable. Then, to everyone's surprise, she gave a small nod. "Good. You will need that resolve." The tension eased slightly, but the unease remained. Mira turned away from the group, her glowing eyes scanning the room as if searching for something. "This place is insufficient," she said. "If you are to fight, you must be prepared. Show me your technology." Alina motioned to a nearby console, where diagrams of Earth's limited weaponry were displayed. Mira approached it, her towering frame dwarfing the equipment. She studied the data in silence, her glowing eyes flickering rapidly, as if analyzing every detail. "Primitive," she muttered under her breath, but the word wasn't meant as an insult. It was a simple observation. She turned back to the team. I will adapt your weapons. They will be stronger. But strength alone will not save you. You must learn to fight as a unit. You must think like your enemies. And you're going to teach us? Mark asked, skepticism dripping from his voice. Myra's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile, but it wasn't comforting. If you survive the training, yes. Her words sent a shiver through the group. Whatever this training was, it wouldn't be easy. But as Elena looked at her team, she saw something in their eyes, a flicker of determination. Myra might have doubted their strength, but she had ignited something within them. The ground trembled suddenly, and alarms blared. Myra's expression darkened as she looked toward the ceiling. They're closer than I thought, she said. Your enemies. The Trelvok. The name sent a chill through the room. None of them had heard it before, but the way Myra said it made it sound like a curse. They will be here soon, she continued. Prepare yourselves. The first battle for your survival begins now. And just like that, the humans realized their desperate call had summoned more than just help. It had brought war to their doorstep. The other visitors. The sky above Earth turned an unnatural shade of crimson, streaked with ominous black clouds that weren't there moments ago. The air vibrated with a strange hum, as though the planet itself was holding its breath. Myra stood on the facility's rooftop, her silver skin glinting faintly under the blood-red hue of the sky. Her glowing eyes were fixed on the horizon, unblinking. She didn't need advanced technology to know what was coming. They're here, she said, her voice calm but laced with finality. Below her, in the underground control room, the team of scientists scrambled to decipher the readings on their screens. The monitors were lighting up with erratic signals, alien ships, dozens of them, breaking through the atmosphere. Panic gripped the team like a vice. Multiple bogies detected, shouted Claire, her hands flying over the keyboard. They're surrounding us. Mark leaned over her shoulder, his face pale. This isn't just a scouting party. This is an invasion. Elena Hayes, the team's leader, slammed her hands on the console to silence the chatter. Focus. We knew this was a possibility. Myra warned us. But we're not ready. Mark shot back, his voice cracking. We don't have the weapons, the defenses. Myra's voice suddenly echoed through the facility's comm system, cutting through the chaos. Weapons won't save you if your hearts are weak. The team froze. Myra's words were like ice, chilling and undeniable. Elena exhaled sharply and grabbed the nearest communicator. Myra, what are we dealing with? How many? What do they want? Myra didn't answer immediately. Her gaze was still locked on the horizon, where faint, dark shapes were beginning to emerge. Her hand rested on the hilt of the shimmering blade at her side, a weapon unlike anything the humans had seen before. They are the Trelvok, Myra said at last. Hunters. Marauders. They follow distress signals like yours, preying on the weak and desperate. To them, your planet is a feast. Her words sent a ripple of fear through the team. Elena clenched her fists, trying to steady herself. How do we stop them? Myra turned her head slightly, her glowing eyes piercing through the camera that transmitted her image to the control room. You don't stop them. You survive them. At that moment, the ground trembled violently, and a low guttural sound filled the air, a growl that seemed to come from the very sky. The Trelvok ships were now visible, their angular, predatory forms cutting through the atmosphere like knives. Their hulls glowed with a sickly green light, and the air around them crackled with energy. They're positioning for an attack. Claire shouted, her voice frantic. They're targeting our location. Of course they are, Myra said, stepping back from the rooftop edge. They want to take out your best and brightest first. It's their way. Elena felt a cold knot tighten in her stomach. What do we do? She asked, desperation creeping into her voice. We're scientists, not soldiers. Then you will learn, Myra replied, her tone unyielding. There is no room for weakness now. Suddenly, the facility's power flickered, and a high-pitched screech filled the air. The lights dimmed as every monitor in the control room displayed the same image. A grotesque, insectoid face with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp mandibles. The Trelvok leader, broadcasting directly to them. The creature spoke in a guttural, hissing language, its voice dripping with malice. The team couldn't understand the words, but the message was clear: surrender or be destroyed. Elena's voice trembled as she addressed the team. Can we translate that? We need to know what they're saying. Mira appeared in the doorway, her towering figure commanding attention. There is no need, she said. They always say the same thing. Surrender, and they will enslave you. Resist, and they will burn your planet to ash. Mark's voice cracked as he looked up at her. And what do we do? Surrender. Fight. What chance do we have against them? Mira stepped closer, her silver armor gleaming even in the dim light. She looked at Mark, then at each member of the team, her expression unreadable. You have one chance, she said. Me. Her words hung in the air like a lifeline. Mira's presence, her confidence, was the only thing holding the team together. But Elena wasn't convinced. You're one person, she said, her tone skeptical but not unkind. How can you possibly fight all of them? Mira's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. I have fought worse. The ground shook again, harder this time, as the first of the Trelvok ships landed just beyond the facility's perimeter. The team could hear the screech of metal and the unmistakable sound of alien weapons charging. Mira turned toward the door, her hand gripping her blade. She glanced back at the humans one last time. Stay here. Prepare your defenses. I will buy you time. Elena stepped forward. Wait. What if you don't come back? Mira paused, her glowing eyes meeting Elena's. Then fight like you have no other choice. And with that, she was gone, leaving the humans to face the storm that was about to break. First contact turns violent. The silence was deafening, the kind of stillness that makes every breath feel like a betrayal. Outside the underground facility, the first Trelvok ship had landed, its jagged hull digging into the earth like claws. The ship emitted a strange hum that seemed to vibrate through the very bones of the planet. No one inside dared to speak. Mira stood at the entrance, her towering form silhouetted against the eerie green glow emanating from the alien craft. She didn't move, didn't flinch, as the massive doors of the ship hissed open, releasing a dense, swirling mist. From the fog emerged the Trelvok. They were monstrous, twice the height of an average human, with insect-like bodies covered in chitinous armor. Their glowing red eyes scanned the landscape, and long, blade-like appendages twitched with anticipation. Their leader, taller and more menacing than the others, stepped forward. Its mandibles clicked together as it surveyed the scene. Inside the facility, the team watched the scene unfold through grainy video feeds. Mark leaned closer to the monitor, his face pale. What are they waiting for? He whispered. They're assessing. Myra's voice came through the comm system. Her tone was calm, but her eyes burned with intensity. The Trelvok are predators. They study their prey before they strike. Elena gripped the edge of the console, her knuckles white. Mira, do you think they'll negotiate? Maybe we can. Negotiation is not their way. Mira interrupted, her voice sharp. They speak only through dominance. As if to prove her point, the Trelvok leader raised one of its bladed arms and drove it into the ground, carving a deep scar into the earth. The message was clear: submit or be destroyed. Elena turned to the team. We need a backup plan. If this goes south. It's already south. Mark interrupted, pointing at the screen. Look. The Trelvok leader raised both arms, emitting a guttural, unearthly screech that rattled the monitors. The other Trelvok charged forward, their movements fast and terrifyingly coordinated. Mira didn't wait. With a sharp, fluid motion, she drew her shimmering blade and stepped into their path. The humans watched in stunned silence as Mira moved like a force of nature. Her blade cut through the first Trelvok with surgical precision, its body collapsing in a heap, She dodged the second, spinning around and slamming her elbow into its chest, cracking its armor. "She's holding them off," Claire murmured, her voice trembling. "For now," Elena said, her mind racing. "But she's one person. We need to do something." The facility shook violently as the Trelvok ship fired a warning shot, a beam of sickly green light that scorched the ground mere feet from the entrance. The humans could feel the heat through the walls. "They're trying to flush us out," Claire said, panic creeping into her voice. Elena grabbed a communicator. "Mira, fall back. We'll seal the entrance." But Mira didn't respond. She was locked in combat, her blade moving faster than their eyes could follow. The Trelvok began to adjust, surrounding her, their movements growing smarter, deadlier. Mira roared, a guttural, defiant sound, and threw one of the smaller Trelvok into another, buying herself a brief moment of space. Inside, the team scrambled to come up with a plan. Mark pulled up schematics on a nearby console. "We have those modified drones. Maybe we can use them as a distraction." "Drones won't stop them," Claire snapped. "They'll tear through them in seconds." "We don't need to stop them," Elena interjected. "We just need to buy time for Mira to get back inside." The ground shook again, and sparks flew from the facility's ceiling. The Trelvok ship's main cannon began charging, a pulsating glow visible even through the monitors. "They're going to blast the entrance," Claire said, her voice cracking. "If that thing fires, we're done for." Outside, Mira fought like a whirlwind, but even she was beginning to tire. The Trelvok leader stepped forward, watching her with a cruel, calculating gaze. It raised a clawed hand, and the charging cannon on the ship slowed, as if it was waiting for her next move. Elena's voice came through Mira's earpiece. "Mira, retreat. We're deploying the drones to cover you." Mira didn't look back. "If I retreat, they will break your defenses. Focus on strengthening your position. I'll hold the line." Elena slammed her fist on the console in frustration. "We're not leaving you out there." Mira smiled faintly, her blade catching the light as she raised it again. "You have no choice." The Trelvok leader finally made its move, lunging toward Mira with a speed that defied its size. Mira met it head-on, their weapons clashing with a deafening screech. Sparks flew as their blades locked, and for the first time, Mira's calm facade cracked. This opponent was different, stronger, faster, smarter. Inside the facility, the team could only watch as the fight unfolded. Mark's voice was barely a whisper. "She can't beat that thing alone." Elena gritted her teeth. "Then we make sure she doesn't have to." She turned to the team. "Deploy the drones. Activate every defense we have. If we're going down, we're not going quietly." As the Trelvok leader forced Mira back, its glowing red eyes flickered toward the facility. It screeched something in its guttural language, and the other Trelvok shifted their focus. "They're coming for us," Claire shouted. Elena looked at the screen, then at the trembling team around her. "Then let's give them a fight they'll never forget." Betrayal among allies. The air inside the underground facility was thick with unease. The battle above had shaken everyone to their core, but the tension within the team felt far more dangerous. Mira was out there, fighting for a world that wasn't hers, while the humans she was risking her life for sat in uneasy silence, staring at each other with suspicion. Elena stood at the head of the control room, her gaze fixed on the flickering monitors showing grainy footage of the battlefield. Mira was holding the line, her silver blade flashing as she cut down the Trelvok soldiers one by one. But even her extraordinary skill couldn't last forever. Reinforcements were coming, and the facility's defenses were far from ready. Behind Elena, Mark's voice cut through the silence. "How do we even know we can trust her?" Elena turned sharply. "What are you talking about?" Mark crossed his arms, his expression grim. "Think about it. She shows up out of nowhere, claiming to help us, but she won't tell us her real motives. And now she's out there, drawing the Trelvok closer to us. What if this is all part of her plan? Claire, who had been monitoring the ship's movements, snapped her head around. Are you serious? She's fighting for us. She saved us from being wiped out 10 minutes into their landing. And what if it's just a performance? Mark shot back. What if she's working with them, leading them here to wipe us out? That's ridiculous, Claire said, her voice shaking with anger. Why would she fight them if she's on their side? Mark shrugged. Maybe it's all a show. Maybe she's stalling until they're ready to attack in full force. How do we know she's not playing both sides? Alina raised her hand to silence them. Enough. We don't have time for baseless accusations. But the damage was already done. The rest of the team exchanged uneasy glances, the seeds of doubt planted. It wasn't just Mira they were beginning to question. Suspicion turned inward, every glance lasting a little too long, every silence growing a little heavier. Alina felt the shift in the room and tried to redirect their focus. We need to stick together, she said firmly. If we start doubting each other now, the Trelvok won't even need to fight us. We'll destroy ourselves. Her words hung in the air, but the unease remained. No one wanted to say it, but the truth was clear. Trust was a fragile thing, and it was breaking under the weight of fear. Later that night, in the dimly lit control room, Mark lingered near a console, his eyes darting around the empty space. Most of the team had gone to rest, leaving him alone with his thoughts. He hesitated for a moment, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, unfamiliar device. It was sleek, alien in design, something he had salvaged from the debris during the Trelvok's first attack. He hadn't told anyone about it, not even Alina. Now, with the room empty and the tension boiling inside him, he placed the device on the console and tapped its surface. A soft hum filled the air as the device powered up, projecting a faint green hologram. The image was distorted but recognizable. A Trelvok warrior, its insectoid features sharp and menacing. Mark's heart raced as the creature began to speak in its guttural language. The device emitted a series of beeps, translating the Trelvok's words into a crude, robotic voice. Humans, surrender the alien giantess. Deliver her to us, and we will spare you. Mark's stomach churned. He wasn't sure what drove him to keep listening, but he couldn't stop. The Trelvok's voice continued. Refuse, and your world will burn. The message ended, and the hologram disappeared, leaving Mark alone in the quiet room. His thoughts raced. Was this a way out? A chance to save himself, and maybe the others, without relying on Mira. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, and Mark hastily shoved the device into his pocket. Alina entered, her expression tired but determined. What are you still doing here? She asked, narrowing her eyes. Mark shrugged, forcing a casual tone. Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd keep an eye on the systems. Alina studied him for a moment, then nodded. Good. I need you sharp tomorrow. We're running out of time, and I don't know how long Mira can hold them off. Mark forced a smile, but his mind was elsewhere. The Trelvok's offer lingered in his thoughts like a dark cloud. Could he trust Mira? Could he trust the team? Or was he the only one who truly understood what needed to be done? The final stand. The sky was a war zone, painted with fire and ash as the Trelvok fleet rained destruction on the landscape below. The facility's once hidden location was now exposed, its steel defenses scorched and crumbling under relentless bombardment. The air smelled of burnt metal and ozone, and every explosion shook the ground with an unforgiving roar. Inside the command center, chaos reigned. Warning lights flashed red, alarms blared, and frantic voices overlapped as the scientists fought to keep the last shreds of their defenses intact. Alina Hayes stood at the center of it all, barking orders into a comlink. Divert all remaining power to the shield generators, she shouted. If those shields go down, we're finished. A young technician turned toward her, panic in his wide eyes. The generators are overloaded. We got maybe 10 minutes before they burn out completely. Then give me 11. Alina snapped, slamming her fist on the console. She refused to let this be their end. Not yet. Above them, Mira was a blur of silver and blue, leaping between burning debris and fallen Trelvok warriors. Her blade carved through the alien forces with deadly precision, but even she was beginning to slow. The battle had taken its toll. Her armor was dented, her movements slightly less fluid, and faint traces of blood, silver and shimmering, streaked her arms. From her elevated position, Myra glanced back at the facility, now surrounded by advancing Trelvok ground forces. The alien warriors moved like a swarm, a relentless tide of death that grew closer with every passing second. She could hear their guttural war cries, feel the tremors of their heavy steps. Her comm device crackled to life, Alina's voice cutting through the noise. "Mira, the shield's going to fail, if we can't hold them back." "Then you must retreat," Mira interrupted, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. She blocked a Trelvok's blade with her own and countered with a swift, brutal strike. The enemy fell, but more were already closing in. "Gather your people and leave this place." "We're not leaving you." Alina's voice was fierce. "You're the only reason we've lasted this long." Mira didn't respond immediately, her glowing eyes fixed on the horizon, where the largest of the Trelvok ships loomed. Its massive cannon was charging, a pulsing green glow that cast long shadows across the battlefield. It was clear, when that cannon fired, there would be nothing left of the facility, or anyone inside it. "I have a plan," Mira said finally, stepping back to survey the scene. Her voice was lower now, almost too soft to hear. "But you won't like it." Alina hesitated. "What kind of plan?" Mira's grip tightened on her blade. "One that ensures your survival, but not mine." Alina's stomach dropped. "No, absolutely not." "You don't have a choice," Mira said, her tone firm but not unkind. She slashed through another wave of Trelvok, her movements sharp and deliberate. "Your people must live. Earth must live. That is why I came." Inside the facility, Alina's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the console. She wanted to argue, to refuse, but deep down, she knew Mira was right. The alien giantess had been their shield, their sword, and now she was ready to be their sacrifice. "Tell me the plan," Alina said quietly, her voice breaking. Mira didn't hesitate. "The core of my ship, the one that brought me here, contains enough energy to destroy the Trelvok fleet, but it must be detonated manually." "You can't," Alina began, but Mira cut her off. "There is no other way," she said, her glowing eyes meeting the camera that transmitted her image to the command center. "Your people are strong. They can rebuild. But they cannot fight the Trelvok alone. Not yet." Alina's throat tightened, but she forced herself to nod. "How much time do we have?" "Not enough," Mira said, a faint, weary smile crossing her face. "Get your people to safety. I'll hold them as long as I can." The comm link went dead, and for a moment, the command center was eerily silent. Then Alina turned to her team, her voice breaking through the fog of shock and despair. "Evacuate the facility," she shouted. "Move everyone to the underground tunnels. Now." "But what about?" Mark started to say, but Alina cut him off. "She's buying us time. We're not wasting it." Outside, Mira stood tall as the Trelvok leader approached. Its massive form loomed over her, its red eyes burning with hatred. It hissed something in its guttural language, a challenge, a promise of death. Mira raised her blade, the silver weapon glinting in the dim light. Her voice was steady, unwavering. "Come then." The Trelvok charged, and Mira met them head-on, her battle cry echoing across the battlefield. Behind her, the scientists flowed into the tunnels, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that the giantess who had come to save them was now fighting her final battle. And above it all, the Trelvok cannon continued to charge, its deadly glow growing brighter and brighter. The sacrifice. The battlefield was a graveyard of smoke and ash. Fires raged across the scared earth, and the air was thick with the stench of burning metal and alien blood. Mira stood at the edge of a massive crater, her shimmering silver armor dented and scorched, her blade barely glowing. She was battered but unyielding, a lone sentinel standing against the storm. Above her, the massive Trelvok mothership loomed, its cannon now fully charged, a pulsating green sphere of energy radiating death. It was ready to fire. Behind her, the last remnants of the human resistance disappeared into the underground tunnels, their shadows flickering in the firelight. Myra's communicator crackled to life. Alina's voice came through, choked with urgency. "Mira, we're clear. The tunnels are sealed. You need to get out of there." Mira didn't respond immediately. Her glowing eyes remained fixed on the mothership, her hand resting on the small device clipped to her belt. The detonator for her ship's core. The one weapon powerful enough to stop the Trelvok fleet. But using it meant she would not leave this battlefield alive. Finally, she spoke, her voice calm, almost serene. "You know I can't do that. Mira, please." Alina's voice broke, the weight of her plea heavy with guilt. "There has to be another way." Mira's lips curved into a faint smile, though no one was there to see it. "There isn't." Alina's breath hitched on the other end of the line. "You saved us. You gave us hope. You don't have to die for us." Mira glanced down at the detonator in her hand, her silver fingers tightening around it. She thought of her own world, long gone now. A planet that had called for help but received only conquerors. She thought of the humans she had fought alongside, fragile yet resilient, desperate yet brave. "This is my choice," Mira said, her voice soft but unyielding. "It's what must be done." The Trelvok leader, towering and monstrous, stepped forward, its crimson eyes glowing with triumph. It hissed something in its guttural language, raising its blade in a gesture of victory. Mira raised her own blade in response, her stance steady despite her battered frame. "Not yet," she whispered, more to herself than to the enemy. She pressed the button on her communicator. "Alina." Alina's voice cracked. "Yes. Do not let my sacrifice be in vain. Rebuild your world. Make it strong. Make it worthy." Before Alina could respond, Myra cut the link. She turned her focus back to the Trelvok leader, her blade shimmering faintly in the dim light. The massive alien charge, its guttural roar shaking the ground, and Myra met it with everything she had left. The two clashed in a storm of sparks and fury. Mira's blade danced through the air, cutting deep into the Trelvok's armor, but the alien struck back with brutal force. Each blow sent shockwaves through the ground, but Mira refused to fall. She was no longer fighting for herself. She was fighting for the people she had sworn to protect. Above them, the Trelvok cannon began to emit a high-pitched whine, signaling the final moments before it would fire. Mira saw the energy building, felt its heat searing the air around her. This was it. In one final, desperate move, Mira drove her blade into the Trelvok leader's chest, piercing through its armored exoskeleton. The creature screeched in agony, its body convulsing as it collapsed to the ground. Mira didn't wait to watch it die. She turned toward the mothership, her glowing eyes narrowing. She activated the detonator. The explosion was instantaneous, a blinding flash of light that consumed the Trelvok fleet in a wave of silver fire. The shockwave rippled across the battlefield, shaking the very foundations of the earth. The mothership disintegrated, its massive cannon imploding in a cascade of green energy. From the safety of the tunnels, Alina and the others watched in stunned silence as the sky lit up with fire. The ground beneath them rumbled, and the air grew hot, but they were safe. Mira had made sure of that. Alina sank to her knees, her hands trembling as tears streamed down her face. "She did it," she whispered. "She saved us." The aftermath. The world above was silent now, the once terrifying Trelvok fleet reduced to ash and debris. The humans emerged from the tunnels, their faces marked with awe and sorrow. They walked among the ruins, searching for any sign of their alien savior, but all they found was her blade, embedded in the ground where she had made her final stand. Elena picked up the blade, its surface cool to the touch. She held it tightly, as if it carried a piece of Mira's spirit. In the weeks that followed, the survivors began to rebuild, using the knowledge Mira had shared with them. They'd fortified their defenses, learned to work together, and vowed never to let their world fall into such despair again. But sometimes, late at night, Elena would hold the blade and stare at the stars, wondering if Mira's sacrifice had truly ended her journey. Final twist. Months later, deep in the ruins of the battlefield, a faint light flickered among the ashes. Buried beneath the debris, a small alien device activated. It glowed with a soft blue light, and a voice echoed from it, Mira's voice. "If you ever need me again, I will find a way."